All right, everybody. How's everybody doing this Thursday night? Welcome to an exciting episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I am your host, Richard Holdridge. Been doing this podcast for about 4.5 years now, broadcasting live from Columbus, Georgia. Not necessarily the background that I have, it's the virtual background, but it's the staple of Columbus, the Riverwalk, and just the historic buildings. So in case you are new to my show and new to the audience of the Sports Beat, this is basically a local podcast. I love talking national sports, and I do plenty of that. But I love talking national sports and local sports as well. And there are a lot of local sports here in the Chattahoochee Valley to cover, to include high school baseball that just wrapped up this past Monday. And then we got the Columbus Lions in action. I hope that you're enjoying your Memorial Day weekend. We do have a big softball event this weekend at the South Commons Softball Complex, as it is the Women's Softball NAIA World Series, as that is going on right now as we speak. I'll try to get some score updates and the matchups for tomorrow's brackets. I also had several guests on earlier today. That is going to be replayed on the show tomorrow on WQEE. I had WTVM's Tony Reese, and I also had 92.9 The Game's Caleb Johnson. Those interviews already took place, and great interviews, and you'll get to hear those on WQEE tomorrow. It's just going to be a jam-packed week of nothing but sports, and as I try to tone down the shows just based off of the tempo of what's going on in the world of sports, I try to cut back my shows. And I do appreciate Thrip Behringer and him and what he has been doing with Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We've been doing Georgia Alabama Sports Live shows, and really I've been using that content for my shows as well, because this podcast is presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And let's go ahead and get right into the show. I'm coming at you live in Columbus, Georgia. Well, technically Midland, but I am coming to you as we've got Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals going on now as we speak. And the Boston Celtics look like they're about to take a 2-0 series lead on the Indiana Pacers. Look, valiant effort. The Pacers are just happy to be here. The Celtics are championship or bust this season. And Joe Mazzulla is on the hot seat if they don't win the championship. I honestly feel with this core of players, even without Kristaps Porzingis, the Boston Celtics should win a championship, and they should be favored to win a championship. And I know that Indiana was giving them the business. Say what you want about the refs and the bad calls, and Indiana had to go through the excruciating 7 games against the Knicks, and the Celtics had plenty of rest, but Indiana should have won Game 1. There is no question that Indiana had that Game 1, and the Celtics just took it away from them. And now the Boston Celtics are beating them, and they are beating them big. And they're about to go up 2-0. As for the Dallas Mavericks and the Minnesota Timberwolves, my thoughts on this series was going back and forth. Luka is obviously the best player in the series. But I don't think that Anthony Edwards should have been trash talking just because Kyrie had extra motivation. He had a great first half. And I do think that Minnesota is going to make adjustments, and they are going to come back in Game 2. And it's going to go back to Dallas 1-1. This series could go 7 games, but who knows? I do think that the Dallas Mavericks do have the experience of being to the conference finals 2 out of the last 3 years. Minnesota hasn't been to the conference finals since 2004. And I still think that Minnesota is a year away. They have a lot of young players. They do have the veteran point guard and Mike Conley Jr. And they got good rim protectors, Karl Anthony Towns, Naz Reid, and Rudy Gobert. But I strongly believe that Anthony Edwards, right now, is the best player in the NBA. A lot of people are saying he's the best American-born player in the NBA because Luka might be the best player, followed by Nikola Jokic. I do think that Anthony Edwards is one of the best players in the NBA. And with that being said, we've got game 2 that's going to be taking place Friday night. So Minnesota has got to win that game. If they go down 0-2 to Dallas and it goes back to Dallas, it could be trouble for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And we'll just see how that happens. Meanwhile, as I get ready to talk about, you got NBA playoffs. The NBA draft is about a month away at the Barclays Center, and the Hawks have the number 1 pick. I got all month to talk about that. We did get breaking news earlier this afternoon, and I'm going to bring it up here on the show. The NCAA and the Power 5 agree to let the schools pay the players. What does this mean for the NIL deals and everything? Well, the NIL deals are still going to be going on, but if you are a big-time university and you got the money, you don't even have to give them an NIL deal. You just give them money. And so this is really changing the landscape of college football. This is something that is making college football like it's professional football, but it's just the Power 5 in the NCAA. So take that in consideration. If you got like a 4-star or a 5-star athlete that's playing at MTSU, they could still make money with NIL deals. I do think that this is a game changer. By the way, come July 15th, or I think 19th, July 19th, NCAA Football 25 comes out. Look, I haven't been playing sports games in years. I want to play this game, but I don't want to spend $500 on an Xbox or a PS5, and I don't think my kids are interested in playing NCAA Football 25. I might go play it over at my cousin's house and just get, interested in it, but I don't think I have time to play full-on Dynasty mode or Road to Glory or whatever they got. Love the graphics. I saw the trailer on YouTube. I'm very intrigued, and I actually think that this is going to be a great game, and why not stop? Don't just stop here. Why don't we bring back College Hoops 2K? Because that was a great college video game as well. And also a very underrated baseball video game was MVP Baseball 07. That happened, years ago. I'm really aging myself. All right, so let's go ahead and switch gears from college football. By the way, we are less than 100 days away from college football. Oh, it's a big deal here in the South. I'm doing this show in Columbus, Georgia. We know that we've got passionate fan bases. I'm talking about Georgia, Alabama, and Auburn. But you also got some other passionate fan bases like Troy. You've got Jacksonville State. You got Kennesaw State. They're both going to be in the Conference USA. West Georgia is going to be in Division I this year. You got Mercer. That's in the FCS as well. And, of course, Georgia Tech. And then the era of Del McGee at Georgia State. So a lot of great college football in and around the area. By the way, at the end of the first period, the Oilers and the Stars, they are scoreless. Florida ended up getting the win over the New York Rangers last night. And so you got the NHL Conference Finals going on as we speak. The Braves had an afternoon slate against the Chicago Cubs. What a win for the Atlanta Braves. At Wrigley Field, Jared Kalanick homers. A.J. Smith-Shawver works 4 and a third scoreless innings as the Braves get the 3-0 victory over the Chicago Cubs. My thoughts on the Braves, and I like A.J. Smith-Shawver. He has been a very good prospect for the Atlanta Braves. Could he be their 5th starter? I do like Ronaldo Lopez. I think that he could be the number 4 starter. You got Max Fried, Chris Sale. Chris Sale needs to be your number 1. He's pitching like a number 1, even though Max Fried has struggled a little bit, but Max Fried has got all the postseason accolades to become your number 1 starter. They're just going to have to plug and play. If they could get A.J. Smith-Shawver, I actually think this is going to be an upgrade from Bryce Elder. They have a solid starting pitching rotation with at least Chris Sale and Max Fried, and also Charlie Morton. I think that those 3 can actually get it done in the postseason. And then Ronaldo Lopez and A.J. Smith-Shawver, can just do some mop-up work and just try to rally off wins in the regular season so they can try to catch the Phillies, because the Phillies are doing something that hasn't been done since 2001. The Philadelphia Phillies have a 37-14 record. They are winners of 6 straight. I had to go and look at the stats. How are the Phillies doing this? It's Ranger Suarez who could win the Cy Young. Ranger Suarez is 9-0 with an ERA hovering about 150. Are you kidding me? Their 2 best pitchers, Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, are not even pitching their best. And Ranger Suarez, who has been a thorn in the Braves' side, Ranger Suarez ends up winning Game 1 of the Division Series last season. He is your best pitcher for the Phillies. And right now the Phillies, Bryce Harper is playing outstanding. Trey Turner has been injured. And they also have the reliable catcher, JT Realmuto. The Phillies are for real. But I do think that the Braves will catch them because the Phillies have been playing an easy schedule. And it's just going to match up. I do think the Braves have a better lineup than the Philadelphia Phillies, when it comes to hitting. But the pitching, that's a different story. The Phillies right now, they've got the 3 horses of Ranger Suarez, Aaron Nola, and Zach Wheeler. But I'm excited about baseball. As we turn the calendar to June, we get ready for the closeout of the first half, and then you got the All-Star game, then the trade deadline. And, it seems like it's the dog days of summer. And here in Columbus, as we are going to get minor league baseball a year from now, because historic Golden Park is making the renovations necessary to accommodate a AA minor league baseball team that's coming in 2025. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to miss the Columbus Chattahoots. I'm going to miss the Chattahoochee Monsters. Last summer, I had a great summer getting the opportunity to call baseball for the Columbus Chattahoots and the Chattahoochee Monsters, thanks to Tom Callahan, who really believed in me and allowed me to do those. And, it's just going to continue getting better. As I look at my broadcasting career in Columbus, as I try to balance talking about national sports, talking about local sports, high school baseball just wrapped up. Congratulations to everybody. And, I got to be honest with you. As a Thrift Barringer, hey, you know what? I appreciate everything that Thrift has done for me. I'm going to try to get him on. I know he's got a busy schedule. I'm going to try to get him on the show, and because I appreciate everything that he has done for my broadcasting career, and I will make sure to send him the link. As I haven't forgot about you, as you're definitely coming on the show. So there is the link. I appreciate everybody's support. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the Facebook page, YouTube channel, and I'm also on the X. A lot of stuff that happened over the week. We just continue grinding here on the Sports Beat and on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Thrift Barringer and I did 2 shows this week. We were on Monday and Tuesday, as we had Coach Coach Greg Mathis, on the show, the winning head baseball coach of the Brookstone Cougars. And we also had Steve Holman on the show on Monday. On Tuesday, as that was a very good show. Trying to remember. No, it was Tuesday that had Steve Holman and Greg Mathis. I think on Monday, we were trying to just wrap up the week, talking about everything that was going on in the world of sports and everything that's going on. I try to keep you informed. Trying to get an update on the NAIA World Series, as we do have some matchups that's actually taking place right now as we speak. As Central Methodist, they are the number 3 seed. They are taking on Science and Arts of Oklahoma. Our Lady of the Lake, the number 1 seed, is going to be playing tomorrow on Friday, 7 p.m. And that is about it. I've been doing this show for 4.5 years. And when I think about my broadcasting career, it has its ups and downs because, I could get on and talk sports with the best of them. And Thrip Barons and I, we have very good chemistry on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And, the best is yet to come. Georgia Alabama Sports Live is just going to continue growing as we get more broadcasters, and people that want to come into the industry, that love sports, that love producing, love talking about sports through the microphone, through live streams, and also, producing shows. I do think it's a very good platform. But, I was watching this documentary on ESPN Plus, the Up for Debate. It's a 3-part show where it talks about the history of sports broadcasting, how it has evolved from ESPN back in 1979 to Mike and the Mad Dog in 1987 on WFAN to the sports reporters where they had sports writers. I mean, yeah, who would have thought? Back in the 1980s, sports writers getting on TV talking about sports. To Pardon the Interruption with Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon. One of my favorite shows growing up as a kid. And to supplement, I was watching Around the Horn leading up to Pardon the Interruption. Around the Horn was good, but it wasn't Pardon the Interruption. It was like my NBC lineup on Thursdays. I watched Parks and Rec, but I wanted to watch The Office. That's really the comparison between Around the Horn and Pardon the Interruption. And they've had other shows like Cold Pizza, which evolved to First and 10. And Skip Bayless has been one of the most polarizing broadcasters in this industry because of his hot takes. And I really believe that that's who he is. And that evolved to, First Take with Stephen A. Smith. And then Skip Bayless went to Fox Sports. And he did Undisputed, where now he has Richard Sherman and Keyshawn Johnson. And I believe Paul Pierce is now on the show. And then Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp are a part of First Take, along with Dan Orlovsky and Kendrick Perkins. There's been a lot of stars on First Take. All right, so let's go ahead and switch gears. We talked about the Braves. We talked about the NBA. We talked about the NHL coming up, NHL playoffs. I mean, we have conference finals, the WNBA. So here's my take on Caitlin Clark because she is moving the needle in the WNBA. So last night, this game was not televised. The Seattle Storm beat the Indiana Fever 85-83, and Caitlin Clark had 21 points. She's going to be fine. She is going to put up numbers. She's still a rookie. She's still 22 years old, and there's a reason why the Indiana Fever had the number 1 overall pick in the WNBA draft. The year before, they got Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark. She is going to be fine. I do think that the schedule has been tougher in the beginning. They had to play the 2 top defensive teams in the WNBA. You had the Connecticut Sun, and you also had the New York Liberty. So here's what the schedule looks like. So Friday on the Ion channel, you got 2 rookies battling out. You got Caitlin Clark going up against Cameron Brink for the Los Angeles Sparks. I do think that Caitlin Clark's going to be fine. NBA TV, this Saturday, get ready because they're taking on the defending 2-time WNBA champion Las Vegas Aces. You know that the Aces, with Asia Wilson, Kelsey Plum, they have got a fantastic team led by a head coach who should be coaching in the NBA. Becky Hammon is fantastic, and I think that some NBA teams should be giving her a call. Meanwhile, the Indiana Fever, I know that they have not won a game yet, but Caitlin Clark is getting the casual viewer of sports to the TV screen, and they are watching her, and those ticket prices just continue climbing. I've already looked at the ticket prices when the Indiana Fever come on to take the Atlanta Dream on at State Farm Arena. I mean, they're over $180. I mean, this is really what people want to see right now. And, you got summertime, you got the Braves, you got the Dream, you got in Major League Soccer. I mean, you have options here in the summertime. And so it's going to be great. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get into what I was going to talk about here on the show. And yeah, I know I seem like I'm rambling, but there's been a lot of sports that I want to talk about, including breaking news. And I do want to talk about just the state of everything that's been going on in the world of sports. You look at everything that's been going on here in Columbus. We just wrapped up the baseball season. Congratulations to Brookstone and Coach Greg Mathis. Congratulations to Calvary Christian, Coach Steve Smith. Congratulations to Glenwood and Coach Fanning. That's 3 champions in the city of Columbus. Columbus is definitely a baseball town. We are getting ready for 2025 as the Atlanta Braves AA affiliate team from the Mississippi Braves are going to relocate to Columbus and probably going to be called the Columbus Braves. And we got the Columbus Lions coming up this week as I will help out with the pregame show for Georgia Alabama Sports Live with Thrift Behringer. I appreciate him giving me that opportunity. By the way, I sent him the link. He wants to come on. Definitely. I appreciate just everything that he has done for my broadcasting career. Met him approximately 2 years ago at a basketball game, and the rest is history. I kind of feel like he has really catapulted my broadcasting career. If it wasn't for him, I don't know where I'd be because the Rapids don't exist anymore. And, you know, I was calling football games for Beam, and we know all what happened with that situation. So I do appreciate everything that Thrift Behringer has done for my broadcasting career. But it is Thursday night. I'm actually scoreboard watching. I'm watching the Celtics and the Pacers. I just think the Celtics are just too much for the Pacers. I think that this is going to be a sweep. And I know I said how good the Indiana Pacers are at home. This is definitely going to be a sweep, in my opinion. Meanwhile, this Saturday, 7 o'clock at the Columbus Civic Center, the undefeated Columbus Lions are hosting the Harrisburg Stampede. And they got 2 more games left in the season before they get into the playoffs. They've already clinched a playoff berth. And it's looking like it's going to be a championship in the AIF against the Columbus Lions and the Corpus Christi Tritons. The Columbus Lions, who are the defending AIFA champions from last season, beating the Mississippi Raiders in the championship, they are out to try to go back-to-back. It is Youth Sports Night at the Columbus Civic Center this Saturday. So get your tickets at the Columbus Civic Center, or you can go to columbuslions.net and just talk to any one of the people that work at the Columbus Lions. And also make sure that you hear Thrift Behringer on the call for the Columbus Lions YouTube channel, the AIF YouTube channel. Brandon Schwobel does a great job with the production. I plan on being there in attendance. I'm just a fan. I just want to see a good game and try to help out, trying to get score updates, do the preview show. And with that, so, the season is getting ready to come to a close because on June the 8th, it is military night. They are taking on the Peach State Cats. And then on Friday, they are taking on the Corpus Christi Tritons, which could be a preview at the AIF Championship. Boy, it's been a fun year so far in sports. I can't believe that 2024 is halfway done. We were right in the baseball season. We got the NBA Finals coming up on June the 6th. We got the NHL. They got the Stanley Cup coming up next in a couple of weeks. The Indianapolis 500 is this weekend. Just a lot of sports. A lot of sports to talk about. And just so much stuff. But, before I close this show, I do want to say that I appreciate all the support from everybody. Even in the beginning, when I just started doing this podcast, and it really has evolved. I mean, it was just an audio-only podcast you could find on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Actually, it wasn't even on iHeartRadio back then. 2020, January of 31st, 2020 is when I did my first show. And it took off. Got a lot of listeners. A lot of people were listening to my show. It was something new. It was something fresh. It was something different because nobody else was doing a local sports to Columbus 5 days a week. I felt like there was an empty void of doing a podcast just dedicated to local sports. There are other podcasters in Columbus, but they don't do local sports. And I'm here to tell you, and we know the podcasters who are in Columbus, they're more national, and that's fine because they found their audience. But I have took that audience that loves Columbus sports, and I held on to them. And it was very hard after the pandemic because there wasn't any local sports till maybe late 2021. And I think the last big sports story in 2021, right when the pandemic was still going on, was Callaway winning the state title. I talked about it on my podcast. Columbus State was back in action, but they only had maybe a total of 10 games in the season. And then things didn't really take off until 2022. So once that happened, and I was calling games for the Columbus Rapids in 2022, and then for the Columbus Lions that summer, and then high school football for Beam. I mean, that's really when my broadcasting career took off, and it just continues getting better. And I appreciate just everybody supporting me, and I do appreciate Thrift once again, as I'm trying to get him on the show, but I know that he's had a busy night. He's done Sports Visions with DJ Jones. I loved his show, and just a great episode as Jack Patterson was on there. And then the Brookstone head baseball coach, Greg Mathis, was on there as well. And don't forget, you can catch Thrip Behringer and DJ Jones Mondays and Thursdays from 4 to 6 on Smooth 92.1 R&B. Well, that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much, everybody who has supported me and has watched this show. And don't forget, I'm also on Facebook, the X, Instagram. Yeah, those are the only platforms that I'm on. All right, have a great night, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.